Today on episode 2, we are interviewing Melissa Olson, who is the principal of Parkview Elementary right here in Chippewa Falls. And I want to welcome you to the Everybody's Welcome podcast, a podcast that's created specifically for you, to help you make connections with people who make the city what the city is. And we believe that every person has a story to tell, and everybody's welcome. Welcome everybody who is either watching or listening to this episode. And as you know, we partner with and basically adopted Parkview Elementary School here in Chippewa. And there is so much that goes into supporting Parkview. And so today we thought it would be awesome to bring on the show the person who makes, or maybe one of the people who makes Parkview go. And her name is Melissa Olson. And most of you know Melissa as the principal of Parkview Elementary, but others of you may know her as a mother in this community, and still others may know her by her awesome and always smiling, bubbly personality. So I've been looking forward to this podcast for a long time because I have known Melissa now for about 7 years. And every time I hang out with Melissa, every time I hang out with you, I always get my shares of laughs in. So welcome, Melissa, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Pastor. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. First of all, I have to ask you one really quick question. Do you love this weather?
No. It's a little on the cold side, and when the streets get slippery, not a fan.
Yeah, not so much. Not so much. Hey, so here we go. You're a principal
Yes.
in our community, which means most of you know you as a principal in this community and as a leader of this community. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your life. What's it like a day in the life of the Olson family?
Oh, okay. Well, I am a mother of two. My husband, Eric, and Eric actually grew up here in Chippewa Falls. I actually grew up in the Chicagoland area, a suburb of Chicago, Rosemont, which is right by O'Hare Airport. So that explains your love for the Cubs. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can get past
Okay.
that. Okay. Go on.
We probably shouldn't talk football either.
Oh,
Right.
yes. Well, for your sake, because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not really,
Right.
there's nothing to
Right.
talk about right now.
Exactly. Well, definitely.
Oh.
So my husband Eric and we met actually when he was living in Illinois through some mutual friends. We're married down in Illinois and had two boys. Ian is a senior at Chippewa Falls High School, and Andrew is a sophomore at the high school as well. So
Awesome.
We had a little path to get here. It's kind of a good story. Eric, like I said, grew up here, went to UW Eau Claire, got his teaching degree, and is a band director. He was a high school band director when I met him in Illinois. But there's a man that was a very big influence on his life, and Doug Greenhall, who was the longtime band director at Chi High, has always kept in contact with Eric and has always been a special person in our family. And he always encouraged Eric to come back to his roots. Before the unfortunate bus crash that happened, Doug actually called him that summer and told him about the opening that was going to be at the middle school and encouraged him to put his application in. And our boys at the time, Ian was 4 or just turning 4, and Andrew was just 1, getting to the terrible 2s. And we made a big family decision to move right in August. Eric actually moved with Ian up here to Chippewa, and I stayed back in Illinois to kind of wrap everything up and finish out my school year. And then by that next year, then we were all up here in Chippewa Falls.
Yeah. So were you in Chicago or suburbs of Chicago?
Yeah. So I grew up right on that. If there was 4 corners, I could put my foot into Chicago, but I was actually in the suburbs. So we always refer to it as Chicagoland, because if you say you grew up in Chicago, you better know the streets and the neighborhood and the church that you grew up by, because otherwise you truly aren't from Chicago. So I did grow up in the suburbs of Chicago. Eric and I lived in a little further south, the Joliet area. So a good 40 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on traffic, on I-55 from my parents' house. So we were suburbs of Chicago.
So do you still have a lot of family that live down there?
I do. I have, my parents still have that house that I grew up in Rosemont. They are snowbirds and actually are packing pretty much to leave for the Tampa area from now until April. So,
Nice.
Yeah. See, that's when you ask about the cold weather. I definitely like that path down to, sunny Florida. So my parents are still in the same house I grew up in all my life. I have one sister still in the area. She lives in the Wheaton area, which is also a suburb of Chicago. But then I have two other sisters in addition to my sister who's in Chicago. And I have a sister in San Diego, California, which is nice to visit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a sister in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Wow.
Yeah.
All over.
We're
So
all
you
over.
basically anywhere you go in the United States,
Yeah.
other than like, the East Coast.
Right,
you have
right, yeah, we
you have
stayed
a
away.
place to stay.
That's right.
That's pretty cool.
So one thing and I'm the oldest of four girls. And my father was a police officer growing up. So you can imagine a dad that's had a police officer type personality and four daughters. So we had good times, but yet stayed right within our boundaries.
So what's the one thing you miss about you're in Chippewa now for how many years?
14.
14.
Yeah.
What's something that you still miss, even though it's even 14 years later, you still miss this about Chicago?
Sure. So actually, I was just home 2 weekends ago for my 30th high school reunion, which is crazy to even think that much time has passed. So I have some really good friends that I miss, but I really, when Eric and I made the decision to move 5 hours north, that was one of my kind of things is when I wanted to go home. I knew I had that ability to go home, whether we went as a family or two of us went or all four of us went. So I definitely, the people, I have aunts and uncles still down there. But one thing, and it was fun at my 30th high school reunion, we had a nice dinner and got to chat and we were mingling, and all of a sudden I smelled something about 10 o'clock at night, and it was our favorite hot dog place called Gene and Jude's. And if anybody's from that area, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Gene and Jude's is a steamed bun and a Vienna hot dog, but they also make their own fries. So they have the really big russet potatoes, and they run them through the potato slicer to make them. They deep fry them right there for you, and then they put a big massive pile right on your hot dog.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Sounds so good right now.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be focusing on
I
Chippewa.
know.
So
It's only 10 o'clock in the morning.
I
I'm
know,
ready.
but they delivered about 150 hot dogs to my 30th high school reunion, and you should have saw that room. It was really cool. And as you know, there is no ketchup involved whatsoever.
Yeah. So you move up to Chippewa. You obviously had an idea of Chippewa because you married someone who's from Chippewa. What was the biggest adjustment when you arrived and a year in? What was the biggest adjustment or culture shock that you had?
Well, one fun story is I did have some friends come up short after, and our house, we had a great house, but the houses are very much spread apart. So when one of my friends, he said to me, so are they going to put another house in between your two houses? Like everything's so much closer together. So I love the space that we have up here. Or when I go home, you realize how narrow our streets are compared to up here. Just everything is just so much more open. You have more space. You're not that compact. It's really nice.
Or up here, when I go over either to Minneapolis or I've driven through Chicago, but up here we figure we have rush hour if somebody on Bridge Street is trying to turn left and you want to get through all the lights and stuff, and it's kind of like, oh wait. That's
actually what I used to tell that story. I worked for a neighboring school district before I got my job 5 years ago here in Chippewa, and I would say I drive to work and I don't touch my brakes. It's amazing. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, so that is definitely a big culture.
Well, cool. So when you are out and about, whether you're at one of the local restaurants or if you're at a festival or doing something, I have to ask this because let's just be honest, your husband, he he's pretty well known.
Yeah.
He plays bass for the band here at Central
Yes, he
Lutheran,
does.
and after worship, there's about a handful of middle school students and
Right.
former, who
Yeah,
are
that's
now
right.
they come up. So,
Yeah.
when you're out and about, who is oftentimes picked out of the Olson family first?
Usually he is. He might have a different opinion, but yeah, definitely when he sees former middle school or that are now high schoolers or high schoolers who are out, it's fun to see those connections, and he does look like kind of a rock star every once in a while.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. So your two boys.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
did you ever think the day was coming when you would have to be doing college visits and
Yeah.
preparing to be, one step closer to an empty nester?
Right. And people say it goes so fast, and it goes fast. It is pretty amazing. We did quite a few college visits this summer and last summer, and this summer when we went to one in particular, I remember getting that kind of like that wave of feeling like, okay, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I like our family right now how it is, and it's we're on the heels of a big change.
Yeah.
So just getting prepared for that and celebrating it, but also appreciating that we have that nice family structure that we can celebrate all those good wins along the way.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Andy's just
Yeah.
he's a man. Andy also plays in our
yeah,
band, and it's kind
yeah.
of fun to see the father-son
Yeah.
up there. But he's growing, developing into his own as a drummer.
He
He's
is.
been awesome.
And it was fun to really watch him right when he first started, because Eric and him would have quite a bit of eye contact communication,
Yeah.
and it's kind of fun because he's really taken off and is much more confident.
Definitely.
And Clay for sure has been a major part of that, and
Yeah.
he really looks forward to playing when he plays with the group, and he's just kind of it's his place. It's definitely one of his happy places.
Well, you
That's
and
awesome.
Eric
Yeah.
have done good.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been awesome. So let's talk more about you and
Okay.
what you do, and just some because again, we want to highlight people in this community who really make Chippewa what Chippewa is, and you're one of those people. You're just so awesome, and I love hanging out. So,
Thank you.
first question: when did you realize that you wanted to actually get into education?
Oh, okay. So I had always been my summer jobs as a high schooler were always was a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor for many years for the village of Rosemount where I grew up, and always kind of had that connection with kids. But I actually went to Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, so go Huskies.
Nice.
Yep. And I went to NIU as a communications major. So
Okay.
I thought I wanted to actually kind of do some of the behind the scenes stuff. One of my favorite subjects was English. I liked writing. I liked editing, that kind of stuff. So I thought I was going to work behind the scenes, not necessarily in front of everybody, but I felt that I would work behind the scenes at whether some kind of broadcasting. But as I got further into my communication major, I'm like, I kept feeling that pull of kids, and I'd come back from being a camp counselor and go back to NIU, and it was my sophomore year. Well, and it was 1992-ish. I'd have that big, we called it the big red book now, and kids don't have that luxury of having the course book that you could just kind of flip through. And I remember sitting on my dorm floor flipping through that big red book trying to figure out what can I do with my life. And I just was pulled towards teaching and knew that was an area that I enjoyed, and would love to be able to contribute in some way.
So were you a good student?
I was a
How would you describe your tenure as a college student?
well, I do say it was the best 5 years of my life, as my parents would, because I did make that major change, and just the way student teaching worked. I could have maybe finished in 4.5, but things didn't line up. So I had a really nice 5th year in college. So I was a good student, but just needed to kind of figure some things out, and enjoyed my time at school.
And then again, right out of college, you started teaching what grade?
I did teach in the city of Chicago. I taught 2nd grade at St. Edward's School.
Oh, wow.
Right on the northwest side of Chicago, right off of I-90. If you've ever driven downtown Chicago, you've probably driven by St. Edward's School. I taught there for 5 years, and the neatest thing about that is that here's something that nobody really knows other than my family is my grandma marched my resume down to the Sister Marie Michelle. Sister Marie Michelle was the principal there and said, "You should hire my granddaughter." So she handed her my resume, and I got an interview, and I did get the job. Hopefully not just because my grandma lived in the neighborhood, but I had a very good 5 years at St. Ed's, and every Tuesday I would walk to my grandma's house. She lived about 2 blocks from the school, and had lunch with her, and it was kind of a really special time that I got to spend with my grandma.
Cool. And when did you begin your master's program?
I did.
And where?
Okay, so I taught 5 years in the city, and that's when Eric and I met. And when we got married, Eric actually taught out in the suburbs, and just that commute coming in was not something I wanted to do every day. So I actually ended up taking another private school job in called Western Springs, Illinois, at St. John of the Cross. I was a first grade teacher there, and during that time, when I was a first grade teacher, I started my master's. I had 30 first graders, which is a very big number to have, and I remember thinking, how am I going to teach 30 first graders how to read? And that really kind of sparked my interest in literacy and just kind of getting in kids' heads and figuring out that whole reading process. So I started during that time my master's in reading. I got my master's from National Louis University. They're based out of Wheaton, Illinois, and there's a couple other campuses downtown Chicago and other places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the favorite part of your job?
Ooh, favorite part of being a principal?
Yeah.
Well, I love making connections. So I see my job as well. First of all, I'm a puzzle putter together. So kind of like, and there's never a box with the picture. So I have all these puzzle pieces, and I try to put this picture together to make a school that's running very well. That has happy, healthy culture, kids learning and engaged, teachers that love what they do, and I feel like I get to help put that puzzle piece together. And I also love being a connector. So if a second grade teacher might be talking about a behavior struggle that they have, and I know a first grade teacher that will either had that child or did something different, I'll be like, "Oh, you talk to this person and let's see how that works." I like being that connector person to get people to succeed.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many? So you've been in public schools for how long?
Yeah.
total?
Are you ready for this? So 25 years.
25 years.
Yep. And it's my 10th year as a building principal. So I got big numbers right there.
Big numbers.
Yeah.
And your husband's been in how long?
He's also 20. Well, it might be 26. It's 25 or 26. Eric was born in the December of '69. I'm sure he's gonna be thrilled I shared
nice.
that. So I
Shout out
always
to
say
Eric,
that's
born
right.
in
That's
December.
right. So he's a child of the '60s for about 10 days. But he was born in the '60s and I was born in the '70s. We're about a year and a half apart.
Okay.
Okay, so you have combined, you have about 50 years of experience.
Yeah.
What do you two see, or more so what do you see the biggest struggles for our public schools today?
Yeah, a couple of things. Mental health issues. We talk about that, Pastor Aaron and I. That's one of the connections that I feel like that we can reach out to our community organizations that help us with things. Mental health issues. The drug use is up. I was able to contribute to the Take a Stand Against Meth campaign, and just those are some of the really big issues, and it just filters right into the schools. So if we can have healthy communities where our mental health and get that drug use down, or nothing, we would be rocking it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. The
Yeah.
Take a Stand Against Meth is a huge thing in our community.
Yeah.
I've been a part of it with Dr. Heidi
Yeah.
and Judge Gibbs
Yes.
and the core team, and
Yeah.
it's just if we don't get ahead of it,
Right.
this community is gonna.
Right,
It's
for
gonna be tough.
sure.
So I imagine you find yourself in a position that I often find myself in, is when families come, and whether it's around drug addiction or mental health, they come and they don't know where to turn.
They don't know.
They
where
don't,
to turn. No.
and I try.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're like, yeah, we've tried that, but there's a waiting list for like 3 months, and we need help now.
Right.
And it breaks my heart
Yep.
because you see just the desperation on these parents' face, and even on the children,
Yep.
the kids
Yep.
are just like, oh.
There's one thing I've noticed in my 10 years as a building principal. Parents love their children. That's that's not the problem. They want the best for the children, whether what kind of issues they're having at home, what kind of issues they're having with their jobs. They love their children and they want the best for their kids. And it's something that we try our hardest to make matches with that, but it is definitely frustrating. Mental health, drug use are definitely two of those big issues. But for schools, where we see it is special education funding. So at the state level, making sure, because many of our kids with mental health issues or parents that are using drugs, a lot of times they show up as a special education child. And our funding definitely from a state or a federal level does not match the need.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely struggle with that.
Okay, so I have 3 children of my own.
Yes.
10, 7, and 5.
Yes.
And you can make this as I wanted to ask this question just to kind of see, because I know my kids.
Yeah.
And I know the things they've snuck in their school bag to school.
Yeah.
And I know you're in the kindergarten through 5th grade.
Yep.
I've done that thing that our county does. Rose sets it up. It's like a hidden, forget what it's called. It's like a teenager's bedroom, and
Oh, yes.
and you walk through, and it's amazing what
Yep.
kids are hiding,
Yes.
things. But
Yes.
but we're talking kindergarten through 5th grade.
Yes.
We want to know, listeners, I hope you might want to know this, but what's the most outrageous or craziest or weirdest thing that you've had to say, sorry, little Timmy, you can't have this at school, and you had to confiscate it?
There's 2 that come to mind. The first is a railroad tie.
Whoa.
Honestly.
Like one of those big metal.
Yeah, big metal, like massive, rusty, old railroad
Wow.
ties. Yeah. And I had that actually in my confiscation drawer. That actually my boys, whenever they come and visit me at school, whether they pick me up or we need to do some kind of transfer or something, they always go into my confiscation drawer to see what is mom taking. It's usually Hot Wheel cars and other things like that. But a railroad tie. I actually kept that with me from my last school to this school just because it's kind of a fun memory to be like, I can't believe I'm taking a railroad tie from a kid right now. Yeah. And then the other one that came to mind is a flower pot that came off of one of our neighbors' front porches.
Oh,
yeah. So we had to return that one, but he very much the boy that I'm remembering wanted to very much give his teacher flowers. Yes, and he was really looking for something. So the potted plants looked really nice to give to his teacher, and he took it right off somebody's front steps. So we walked back over to the house and returned it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a what if.
Okay.
If you weren't in education,
Yeah.
okay, so back to that dorm room where you're flipping
Yep.
through that red book,
Yep.
and you landed on something different. What would you be doing different, or what career would you be doing if it wasn't education?
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, I started as a communications major, so the broadcasting area kind of intrigues me. I'd love to learn about that. But my secret wish is actually to be a florist.
Oh.
I think it'd be really
Really?
cool.
Flowers.
To put
That's awesome.
arrangements together and for happy and sad occasions, and really help make memories for families through flowers.
So
That's a fun answer.
Thank
I like
you.
that.
no.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
so do you have a garden?
I try. I always grow tomatoes and sometimes cucumbers or zucchini, but those usually take over. And like, how it's like in the morning you see a small little zucchini, and then the next day it's like the world's largest one.
Yeah.
Right.
I tend to do that kind of a lot, so I stick to the farmer's market usually.
But when it comes to flowers, though, you don't have like a yard full of perennials or annuals.
No, but I have to give a shout out to my mother-in-law and the Lake Wissota Garden Club, because she's like one of those master gardeners. So
Shout out to Lake Wissota Garden Club.
There you go.
Master
So I have a very crafty mother-in-law who she's been known to. I'll come home and there'll be a beautiful porch pot designed at my front door. Hint, hint.
Hint,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah. I enjoy
If Melissa's
those days.
mother-in-law is listening,
Yeah.
so Okay, one more thing about education. What was or who was your favorite teacher growing up that you still think of today?
Okay, I have two. First is, and I think I more remember the memory of it because it was so long ago, but my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Ost, were her very last class, and she had been teaching 35, just a huge amount of years, and we were her last class. And the reason I just thought of her just last week is when I was home for that high school reunion, I took my mom was, shoving things out, like, come on, take this, and I had found something from my kindergarten year and just kind of had that warm feeling of, having fun in kindergarten. Although I did not get very good marks in handwriting. I was a lefty. And
you wrote on the wrong side.
Yeah,
of the page.
Well, no, they say left-handed people are the only ones in their right minds.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Welcome to Comedy Hour.
That's
podcast.
right. I got a whole bunch of those, but don't ask Eric or my boys because they know them all. So. Yep. So Mrs. Ost came to mind because I was just thinking about her a couple weeks ago. But I also had another, an English teacher, Mrs. Hogan, and she was tough. She was tough on me, and she had high expectations. And I remember not liking her very much when I was with her, but know how much she taught. And when I said I really enjoyed English, I liked writing, I loved reading, read a lot, and it was really because of her, and she inspired me. So, yeah. And even though you don't know it at the time when you're 11 years old, that's usually those are the best people in your life.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's the Olson family's favorite thing to do in the wintertime?
Oh, well, okay, here's another one of my one-liners. I'd rather be a swim mom than a hockey mom.
Boy, there's some competition there.
Right? So I sit in 80-degree pools most of the winter and have
Nice.
done so. Both our boys are swimmers. Ian has swam since he's been in first grade. It took Andy a little longer to warm up to the idea of swimming, and he still tells me he hates swimming, but he likes winning, so he'll still keep swimming.
Yeah.
And that's his personality. So we very much actually in the next weekend starts. Ian will be swimming and Andrew will be swimming in Stevens Point. So we'll be at that the YMCA pool in Stevens Point. Ian's swimming in Milwaukee the weekend after that, and then the boys' high school season starts. Where my husband actually needed one more thing. He is the head swim coach at the high school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we had to add that. So So that's. I like being a swim mom though, so it's good stuff.
So outside of swim though.
Yes.
Are you a family that's going to be like, hey, let's head up to the county forest and throw on snowshoes and let's trounce through the snow, or let's go buy some snowmobiles and go snowmobile. Yeah. I mean, is there anything that draws you?
Well, no. Well, Eric is a snowshoer, and actually, I have to also give another plug. He is an Ironman,
Yes,
so
he is an Ironman.
He has, worked very hard for that, and his goal was to be an Ironman before he was 50, and he turns 50 in December. So.
And he did the Ironman in September.
So,
right?
Yes.
And every time I see him, I ask him because, when you do a big race like that, the first day or two after, it's like, absolutely not. I'm never going to do that.
Right.
But this is like 2 months later, and I ask him, he's like, nope, I'm not doing it ever again.
I believe him. I think he'll still do halves, and he'll do the sprint marathons, sprint triathlons. But no, I think that was probably the only one.
I heard he also got a cross bike.
Yes, and that's funny you asked that because I don't know about that yet.
Oh.
Andy's the one who kind of spilled the beans, but I have not seen it.
And so did your pastor.
Yeah.
Wait,
so this will be fun.
Okay, this is awkward.
Yeah.
Your pastor knows something.
I know.
Oh, man.
Yep. He bought it the weekend I was home at that reunion.
Oh,
smart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, in all fairness to him, he did tell me he got a screaming deal on it.
I'm sure
where
he did.
He said they practically paid me to buy it.
Right.
So.
I'm sure we'll give another shout out to Spring Street Sports because Eric is a favorite customer.
Spring Street.
Yeah.
Love Spring Street. We go there for our Christmas shopping all the time for the kiddos.
There you go.
So okay, what do you,
what do I do?
What do you do then? Because you're following Eric around.
Yep. Or my kids.
Or your kids.
Yep.
What does mom like to do? What does Melissa like to do?
Well, I enjoy spending time with friends. I have standing appointment on Saturday mornings with a couple of my other principal and teacher friends at the 4:30 a.m. coffee house. So that's always something I enjoy doing.
Nice.
That's our my friend Jill says that a $3.50 cup of coffee is way cheaper than therapy. So
Yeah.
that's good for my soul on Saturday mornings at the 4:30
Yeah.
a.m. So yeah.
Well, fast forward then to summer. What do
Yes.
the Olsons like to do in the summer?
Well, we actually love to be on the lake. About a year ago, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, who did live on Lake Wissota for quite some time, they've owned some property there for 40 plus years. My mother-in-law emailed my husband one day and asked if we wanted to buy their house, and we didn't expect it. And she emailed him, so that's kind of a fun little tidbit.
Yeah.
And then he typed back, why? And then she typed back, we're getting old. So, and from there we got to buy my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. And so we do have a nice house that we were able to do some renovations to over last winter and spend some time on the lake.
Are you on the big lake?
We are on the big lake.
Nice.
Yep.
So, water ski?
Well, yeah,
Or
water
do you
ski.
wake surf? Or
Well, my boys did buy a wakeboard this summer. To my, because, mother of boys,
Yep.
less drama than girls, harder to keep alive.
It's true. Very true.
Right? Right?
Oh.
So, yep. So I never wanted to know how fast my car went. Ever.
Oh, yeah,
It's never
never.
ever been something.
it never dawned on you
Never.
to think,
Nope.
I wonder if I can.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they have the danger genes. So yeah. So there's a little wake. We did get. They bought a wake skate. I think it's called.
Yes.
Is that what that's called?
Yep. Wake skates.
Weight skate kind of.
Cool.
Yep. So we've got that. I enjoy spending
So
our time.
just vegging on the lake.
Vegging
and
on the
hanging
lake,
out,
yep.
taking in the sun.
You got it. Yep.
A big book reader? Do you?
I do. Yeah, actually, more professional during the winter months, but summertime I try to get in one or two, the Oprah Book Club type
Okay.
reads.
What's the last book you read or the book you're reading right now?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, right now, Sue Kern, my director of curriculum, we are reading Visible Learning right now. So I have 112 pages to read by next week. So that's been in my bag. So I've got that one to read, and that's about learning strategies and what strategies work best for kids, because some of those traditional ones really don't necessarily work as well as we think they work. So just kind of thinking about different ways kids learn. So that's Visible Learning. And then this summer, I actually read a pretty cool book, and it was very uplifting. It was called The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates.
Yeah.
And that was a fun book to read.
Nice.
So you highlighted Lake Wissota.
Yeah.
Love it. It's
Yeah.
one of my
Yeah.
family's favorite place to go
Yeah.
boating and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think Lake Wissota has a big mark on Chippewa.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, what makes Chippewa so great?
Yeah.
I mean, what makes it the community that it is?
Well, the people first and foremost. When we moved here 14 years ago, just to be welcomed and to feel like we had a place. Eric had some connections from his childhood and growing up, but really just our neighborhood was fantastic. Met lots of people, included but then also the taking our boys to the pumpkin farm or the apple orchard, or going out to grandma and grandpa's on the lake. There's just so many great things to do out here or up here that it's just a lovely place to live.
What's your favorite apple orchard?
Oh, Bushel and a Peck would be my husband's favorite and he's an avid apple guy. So pretty much from there's August, if the apples are starting to come in, all the way through now, end of October, there's definitely apples from the apple orchard in our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's date night with Melissa and Eric.
Yeah.
Where is your restaurant of choice?
Ooh, that's a great question. Actually, the last place we went together was Milwaukee Burger Company in Eau Claire. So, but we were out that way. But if we were in Chippewa, we would either go to Casa Mexicana. That's definitely one. Max's is kind of a fun place to go.
Yep, the surf and turf.
Yeah.
I've still never been there.
You got to go.
Yeah.
I need to check that
It's
out.
good.
Oh.
It's yummy.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, or just we do go Wednesday nights. We do have a small group. We listen to your advice. We
Okay.
have a little small group of parents that while our kids are at teen group, youth group, we go to the fill-in. So we have our
fill-in.
small group at the fill-in.
Nice.
Yep.
So we have groups happening naturally
Yes,
that we don't even know about.
and we refer to it as small group.
That's awesome.
The staff would attend, but
There you go. Yeah,
Right.
you guys are kind of busy with our kids, so.
yeah. Yeah. Is there do you have a favorite lineies, or are you a
I am a lot. Yeah, I'm definitely more. I'm kind of more that honey Weiss.
Yeah.
Berry Weiss in the summer. Some of those fruitier ones.
fruity ones?
Yes.
You like the honey, don't you,
I
Aaron?
love the honey.
Yeah.
You'll
The
be
shandy, I can maybe
Yeah.
I have to be really thirsty, and it has
Okay.
to be hot out, and I
Yeah.
can only drink maybe one of the shandies, and then I got to move on to the honey.
There you go.
So,
That's
but
a good
what
staple.
what was the other? There's like a pumpkin or
Yeah.
orange shandy.
Orange
Oh,
shandy.
well, there's
yeah.
orange shandy, but there's a pumpkin something.
Yeah, it's like harvest or something.
Harvard. Yeah,
I've had those.
that's really
They're
good.
actually pretty good.
See, squirrel.
There you go.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
You say fill in, and we're
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
okay, we talked hot dogs, we talked
Yeah,
beer,
That's right.
and it's 10:50, so that's cool. Do you have a favorite event that happens in our community that you look forward to every year?
Well, the Bridge to Wonderland parade's coming
Yeah.
up real soon. That one's fun and always an adventure for the weather because you never
Yes.
know. Because we've been bundled up from head to toe, where just slits of your eyes are
It's 10
open.
below.
It's 10 below, or a foot of snow, because I'm
Yep.
pretty sure that can happen. And then there's some nights, some parades where it's mild out.
It's mild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Did you see what they're doing this year? Is it?
Disney?
Well, it's Disney, but then they have this whole thing where, I think I got this right. They congregate down at the new park.
Oh,
and they're gonna have
sure.
ice skating rink going on, and they're
Oh.
gonna have obviously the Liney's
Yeah.
truck there,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have food places down there
Yeah.
and stuff. So that it sounds like they're gonna extend it, and everybody's is to go down and just kind of congregate down there, which
Awesome.
is really cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, they did that. They did a little something like that after the Pure Water Days parade,
Okay.
because
Yep.
my boys are in the high school marching band, and that's where they
Yeah.
end it, and then they end it with a fun little concert in the
Yeah.
park.
It's
a
so
great
cool.
resource.
Love that park.
Yeah,
I love that
yeah.
park.
And it just works well that parades kind of end down
Yes.
there so
Yeah.
that it's just like
Yeah, a big-
parents can pick their kids up and there's
Yep.
stuff going on.
Yep.
So
Big
yeah,
group
that,
area.
that worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Man, yeah, isn't Chippewa awesome?
Chippewa's awesome.
I love Chippewa.
I say there's no place I'd rather raise my boys. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a question for you. So I've heard it described both ways.
Okay.
Chippewa is a small town
Mm-hmm.
with a large town feel,
Mhm.
or a large town with a small town feel. What do you think?
Interesting. I'm gonna go with small town with a large town feel,
Yeah.
just because of my past.
Just
And just because of where, because
Yeah.
like I said, our traffic here is very different than other areas in the,
Yes.
in the country.
just a little
A
bit.
little.
So back to let's talk a little bit about our partnership.
Okay.
Cool. For Chippewa, because or Central Lutheran and Parkview, because you know that Central Lutheran wants to be a church that's known for what we're for,
Yeah.
and we're for this community. That's why
Yep.
we're doing this podcast, and what really launched our For Chippewa vision, I guess, if you will, is when we decided, you know what, we are going to adopt Parkview.
Yeah.
And it basically turned into something. It was kind of like, whether you like it or not,
Right.
we're gonna adopt you.
Yes.
And
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, and you never the best part was you never really pushed back. It's not like I even had to like
okay.
twist you. You're like, sweet, this is awesome.
Yep,
And
yep.
when I was getting ready for today, I wish we could show everybody, but the original video that you and I did.
Yeah, in the basement of your house.
Yeah.
Right?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but our partnership with Parkview, explain a little bit about just what that means, I guess, if you will, or to kind of unpack, like, or to help those who really don't know about our partnership.
Yeah.
Because most people think, oh, church and state, you
Right.
must separate. There cannot be
Right.
overlap, all
Right.
that good stuff.
Right.
But just kind of explain what our partnership looks like,
Sure.
how it works, and then what does it really mean?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I see Central Lutheran Church as our cheerleaders. They are that the encouragers. If we are Pastor Aaron, if he comes in the beginning of the year and kind of like ramps it up and kind of gets everybody excited. I'm usually the one telling them, you have to do this and don't forget this deadline and don't forget to unpack this and, get your this in and this is due by here. But Pastor gets to come in and kind of give them the pep talk and our staff, and we've done it a couple different ways. So just to start our school year off knowing that we have community partners and people out in the community that support what we do and appreciate the hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears that is put into what a school year encompasses is super exciting. So that's nothing that you have to raise money for or anything like that. Just that support and to put smiles on our staff members' faces to know that we have people out there that appreciate and understand what we do. So that's, I think, number one has been the best thing that I would have never even thought of when you guys approached us to have a partnership. So there's that. Other things, the Feed My People food program that we have. Parkview has about 60% of our kids who do receive free or reduced lunch. So that's higher than the average. It's usually about 35 to 38%. So we definitely have more children that live in conditions where food is something that is a struggle for families. And so our parents have the option to sign up for food bags, weekend kids meal food bags provided by Feed My People food pantry. And they're foods that kids can prepare by themselves, or at least have very low level use of the oven, or it's more microwavable bars, things that are easy to eat. And there's so much research that goes into what the kids eat and put into their bodies, helps with concentration and being able to learn. So having good full bellies for our kids through the weekend so that they can come back to school on Monday is huge. But that costs money. And it's not something that we get to budget for in our regular school budgets. That's an extra. So Central stepping up to help us pay for that program is huge. It's something that we know helps kids. We can send them home for the weekend, and they know that they have the security of that food bag with them, and then we welcome them back on Monday. So I just had the numbers sent to me. It's 120 food bags that are sent home every weekend for about 4,320-ish meals
that is
for
amazing.
The year. It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And what I love about that, to kind of talk about that, unpack that a little bit more, is we're gearing up to get ready to basically raise the money to support another year of that. And what I love is not only are we supporting you, or better yet, not only are we collaborating with you and working with Parkview, but we, this obviously is a Feed My People thing. Feed My People food bank. So shout out to Feed My People, because when we do this, it's like a three-way partnership. Where we're working with Feed My People's working with Parkview, and vice versa. But man, 121 meals go out every single weekend. Correct. What's the demographics, if you will, of Parkview, really, or the socioeconomic? Sure. I guess how would you articulate that as far as knowing what Parkview is like? Because there's how many elementary schools in Chippewa? There are 6 elementary schools. 6, and we are the largest. We're a 4-section school, so meaning that we have 4 kindergartens, 4 first grades, 4 second grades, and so on and so forth. We do have 3 fifth grades this year. Our enrollment is a little down. We usually hover right around 500 students, but for the last 2 years, we're trending a little down, and it's because our kindergarten classes are smaller that we're trending down. So we're sitting right about 470, 475 for kids, so we're down a little bit. The demographics, like I said, it's about 60% of our families do apply for free and reduced lunch. And that's a choice. So that's not necessarily, that's the number, the hard numbers that we work with the federal government on. I think there's actually some more kids that live
below the poverty line that, and it's a family choice on whether or not they want to apply for that.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot actually in the middle school and the high schools, that our families stop applying for the free and reduced lunch. So our numbers aren't super solid. And we try not to have a stigma. There's a lot of rules around free and reduced where I wouldn't know the names. It's very locked down, I guess you would say. It's not readily available information. So we work with our families the best that we can, encourage them if they have that need to fill out that free and reduced application, and then hopefully they would continue that in middle school and high school. So, yeah.
Well, man, that is so awesome. And,
yeah.
And again, if for those of you who are listening and watching, we have that coming down here soon.
Yeah.
We're gonna have envelopes in the seat backs of our seats in our worship center, where we're gonna have a list of things people can really give to and be generous. And one of those is going to be our weekend kids meals. And so people will have an opportunity. And if you're not a part of Central Lutheran, please jump on our website, get a hold of us. You can give to this if you really want to, but it's just amazing. That's man, it just kind of gives me a little goosebumps knowing that that support really helps get that many meals into homes on the weekends.
Right.
That might not happen if it were not for the weekend kids meals.
And it's very much appreciated. Our fifth graders are workers, so when the Feed My People food truck pulls up, they unload the bags. It's kind of a service that our fifth graders do. They organize the bags into classrooms, and then our carts go on a Friday afternoon and get delivered to the various classrooms, and then the kids, whoever they are, they pick them up, put them in their backpacks, and head out for the weekend. So it's a wonderful program that we have, a great service that we can provide for families.
It's fun. So when we started this relationship, it basically was me taking you out to coffee, saying, Melissa, what would you love to see happen at Parkview? And that you don't have the resources to do. And that's really kind of how it all started.
It totally is. And that's what I was going to say. So not only do you give that wonderful support, the cheerleading kind of support, and then the Feed My People is a very specific monetary thing. But that third thing is truly, you've given us the opportunity to kind of dream and think out of the box. Sometimes it's out of need. We had a few kids go into foster care once with nothing. It was a very fast situation, and we saw ourselves as somebody who could help the foster parents make that transition. Pastor's always telling me to reach out and call anything, don't think something's off the table. So I called and said, I have this situation. I haven't been in this situation quite with 3 kids, and kind of how fast it happened. And you guys helped us put together little bags for the foster families to help them continue to come to school and, learn and grow. So just those things, just knowing that we can call and kind of problem solve together, and then create our little wish lists. One example is we did the Energy Bus book for kids last year. And so I go into every classroom. We usually pick a theme for the year. This year it's the power of yet. So I might not be able to do something yet. So it's having a growth mindset. But last year's was the Energy Bus book for kids. And through those donations and that creativity, you guys provided a hardcover Energy Bus book for kids to every classroom. So when I went in to the classrooms, read the book, and then I got to leave the book, that was a pretty special thing. Cool. So just those extras that really just make a school community positive, and those are some of those things that we hang our hats on. Yeah. And that's what I love about it too. And Dr. Heidi, our school superintendent, she has just a really amazing understanding and vision for how faith communities and our public schools can work together. And to really tear down the myth that there has to be this hard concrete line drawn that says you can't. And it's just been really awesome. And so when I have colleagues of mine coming and asking, so how do you do this? What, how did you get into the schools like this? I tell them, here's what you do. If you want the step-by-step to do this, the first step is to go introduce yourself to the principal, to the faculty, and take the principal out for coffee. There
it's
you
as
go.
Simple as that.
It's a great recipe.
It's as simple as that. And you will be and then just get out of the way, because you'll be amazed at just how that relationship just grows.
That's right.
Because we both need each other.
We do.
In this community, and that's what I love that
Absolutely.
makes this community so awesome.
Absolutely. And you think of things that you never thought how to solve a problem, or you have a little conundrum. It's kind of nice to be able to bounce things off of each other, because sometimes we do have similar situations. So just to have that support out in the community is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, you are awesome.
Well,
this is so fun.
Thank you.
I am so man, I'm humbled that you came and are on the podcast with us, and that you wanted to do this with us. And so I just really appreciate it. And for all of you who are watching and listening, you're going to want to share this because you're going to want to share this personality, Melissa, with everybody that you know, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, but share this. We want to thank you for being here with us. I want to thank you, Melissa, again for being here.
Thank you.
I want to thank Clay, our producer of our podcast. I'm
Yeah.
your host, Pastor Aaron. Make sure you subscribe to our Everybody's Welcome podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube, on iTunes, on Google Play, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Make sure you find us and subscribe to us, because you don't want to miss an episode when an episode drops. So once again, thanks to everybody who's listened and watched. And Melissa, again, I'll leave it with this: if you need anything, let us know, because remember, we are a church that's for the school district, and we're for everything that the teachers do, and the teachers just, man, they are amazing. So thank you. God bless. Have a great school year.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it all.